Good afternoon and welcome back. Today is the 22nd day of August 2016. To some of you people that seem to think that Hillary Clinton might be your best bet and gun grabbing might be a good deal, especially if we just do away with the Second Amendment, let's talk for a minute. Let's take a look around the world and see what's happening. We already know what happened in England. We already know what happened in Australia. Now let me take you to Caracas, Venezuela. You see, there last week the socialist government began seizing and destroying handguns, rifles, and shotguns, continuing the late Hugo Chavez's effort to solve the nation's crime problem by disarming the nation. Well, he found out that Chavez imposed what he and his followers proudly called 21st century socialism on one of the wealthiest nations in South America. Venezuela has been in economic and political and social freefall. Disarming the country doesn't work. But you can certainly understand the current president, I think his name is Nicolas Maduro, his desire to disarm as many Venezuelans as possible right now, because they're extremely worried that an angry and frustrated populace might just turn around and start a revolution. Consider what he and Chavez have accomplished since Chavez came to power in 2012. The economy, it's been essentially a middle-class democracy. It's collapsed. 70% of the population now is in poverty. Venezuelans are dying in hospitals because there's no hygiene, basic drugs. A square of toilet paper over there costs more than a tank of gas. And people they're forced to wait for drugs, hours in line for food. Maduro has decreed a 2-day work week for government employees. Rolling electrical blackouts plague the country. And even the First Lady's nephews, believe it or not, have been arrested by DEA agents. That's U.S. DEA agents for offering to sell wholesale amounts of coke. And I don't mean the soda, to an undercover agent, and they're going to jail. Inflation is rampant and it's getting worse by the day. The International Monetary Fund estimates that Venezuela's inflation rate this year will reach 720% and predicts 2,200% inflation next year. That will totally destroy the country. This collapse is probably the best modern example of just how quickly socialism can destroy a basically wealthy democratic nation. When Hugo Chavez came to power, the left in the country celebrated him and his policies. Hollywood types and progressive politicians praised him and looked forward to the demonstration of just how effectively socialism could transform a country. And that's what happened. That's what everybody witnessed. But it wasn't quite the sort of transformation everybody thought. Drug gangs are running rampant. Caracas has turned into a war zone. Criminals roam the streets with pretty much impunity. Most are armed with weapons purchased or stolen from the police and the army, as inflation and corruption make anybody with access to government firearms a potential seller. Gangs have even acquired heavier weapons such as bazookas by buying them from impoverished or maybe corrupt officers. There's a move going on to force a recall that, if it were to succeed, would require 20% of the nation's voting age population to sign a petition. Given the regime's crackdown on its opponents, you really have to wonder if that many citizens would be willing to put their names on a petition. If they do, and a recall is actually held, Maduro would be done. But few expect him to go very quietly or even to allow such an election. The United Nations calls on Venezuelan authorities to guarantee the exercise of their constitutional right of Venezuelan people, and that the remaining steps of the realization of the presidential recall referendum be pursued clearly, concretely, and without delay, and thus contribute to the quick and effective resolution of the current political and economic social difficulties in the country. That is a quote from the United Nations. What they realize is that if Mr. Maduro doesn't allow a recall and things continue to deteriorate, the downward spiral will continue unabated. Earlier this month, 15 members of the Organization of American States, shocked at the unraveling of one of the most prosperous nations in the region, called on Mr. Maduro to allow this recall to go forward without intimidation. The Organization of American States resolution makes it clear that the other nations in the region have concluded that Mr. Maduro must go. In their statement, they said, and I quote, "We call on the Venezuelan authorities to guarantee the exercise of the constitutional rights of the Venezuelan people, and that the remaining steps for the realization of the presidential recall referendum be pursued clearly, concretely, and without delay, and thus contribute to the quick and effective resolution of the current political, economic, and social difficulties of the country." They expect that to happen. Come see me about a discount I got on a couple of bridges. Anyway, what they realize is that if Maduro doesn't allow a recall and things continue to deteriorate, the downward spiral will continue unabated. Should that happen, incompetent authoritarianism destroying the country will morph into a ruthless totalitarianism. Imposing such a regime is far easier if the people are first disarmed, and that's exactly why he is moving to confiscate and destroy as many guns as possible now. The problem is, Maduro's policies have proved so disastrous that to stay in power he may ultimately have to depend upon the army that may turn their guns on him and his cronies. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Look it up. Pay attention, because this is what's going to happen if Hillary gets in. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to vote on the Republican ticket this time, because if she gets in, we're going to have the same situation. The gun confiscation and the drugs and the crime will be rampant in the United States, and we will be broke before she leaves office. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please share this with your friends, like and subscribe to my page, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day.